Hey there, this is Dr. Pam Perry, and this is probably by far one of the most anticipated Speakers Magazine shows that I have had in a long time. First of all, George Fraser was my day one. Yes, he was my day one. Literally, for Speakers Magazine about 7 years ago, he was our very first cover. And he is now going to be on our show today. And I'm so excited because one, we go way back. I mean, he doesn't know that I keep all of the things, right? This is the very first time that George and I really worked together with these success guides. I don't even know if we can even talk about those, George. But at one point in time, we had a success guide that had Oprah, TD Jakes, and Bob Johnson on the cover. I don't know if he remembers that. I save everything. I save everything. I think we're going to talk about his books. This one here. This is the very first. Oh, so anyway, get your notes ready because George always drops gems. He always drops gems, and I'm just so excited. So I'm going to bring him up right after this, and you're going to hear none other from Dr. George C. Fraser, the creator, the founder of the Success Guide, author of 6 books. He's got a new book. He's going to be telling you about that, and also the Power Networking Conference, and he's going to give us some tea about that as well. So stay tuned right after this. My day one. How are you, sir? Yes.
I'm doing awesome. You look beautiful. My God, thank you for that
Thank you.
cover and thank you for all the incredible things you continue to do, Pam. You never cease to amaze me. Probably one of the reasons is that you have been successfully married for many, many moons. And behind every strong woman, there's a brother backing her up. Got her
Yep.
back.
Yep.
And
Mark was backing me up.
Mark,
That is
yeah, Mark is thebomb.com. So it's just good to be with you. And
it.
it's
Listen,
always nice to work with you. You're easy to
listen.
work with. And
This was the first
thank you.
book. We could tell because the hair was different here. The color of the hair was different there.
Amen.
Looking the same, just like you just dyed your hair gray. That's about it. But
Yeah, yeah.
listen,
And
this book,
I started getting gray at around 38 years old. So it wasn't gonna, it wasn't gonna take long for me to be all gray. But I've earned every strand of this gray, and I'm grateful for it because out of the lessons and the obstacles and the mistakes that I've made, which puts you under a little pressure, turns you gray, but it only makes you better and prepared for life.
well, you kind of like it segue. So this was the first book. Then you did Success Runs in Our Race, which is still available on
Hmm.
Amazon. And then you did Success Runs in Our Race. This was the second edition.
Hmm.
And then you did the other one, which I couldn't find right away, was uh, the
Race for
Success
success. Then there was
Race
click,
for
10 truths
Success.
for building extraordinary relationships,
Yes,
etc.,
and
etc.
then
There you
Click.
go.
That one I have.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
love this book here as well. This one was really good. This is your life work, these books. But before you even did the books, you were doing the success guide. I don't have the very first guide. This one is called the Millennium, right?
Right.
And and let's talk the backstory about Dr. George Fraser and why this is your life work and why you feel networking, power networking is really the key to success.
Uh, because there are two skills that you're going to have to develop, and I call them the first and second foremost skills that you'll have to develop as a developing human being, especially as a black person living in America. One will be the skills of emotional intelligence, the ability to manage your emotions, right?
Mm.
Because it's not what you say to me, it's how I respond. And if you cannot manage your emotions, if you do not have a relatively high EQ, emotional quotient, the ability to manage your five most important emotions, right? You're going to have a pretty rocky life. And I don't care if you have a PhD from MIT, but if you have a personality of a box of rocks, you're not going anywhere in this world. So emotional intelligence is critical. And then, of course, the number one skill, of which I've been preaching this gospel now for 40 years, is the ability to develop, cultivate, nurture the relationships through every stage of your life that you will need. You will need three kinds of networks, right? You'll need a personal network. These are the people that lift you up,
Mhm.
cheer you on. Let's call that your network at home. These are the people
Mhm.
that love you the most. Then you will need an operational network. These are the people that help you to get specific tasks done in life, while you help them to get specific tasks done in life, and they platoon in and out of your life. That's your operational network. And then there's your strategic network, and these are the people that are smarter than you. These are the people that are where you want to be. These are the people that will drag you into the 21st century kicking, screaming, and crying. These are the people that you need in your life so that you can continue to grow. These are your mentors, and they can be your coaches, etc. So those are the three networks. This is something that we have to work on for our entire life, through all eight passages of our life. If you're lucky to get eight passages, each passage is 10 years. And why is that, Dr. Fraser? Because you're a different person at 10 than you were at 1. You're a different person at 20 than 10. Let us pray. You're a different person at 30 than 20, 40 than 30, 50 than 40, right? 60 than 50, 70 than 60, and 80 than 70. You're constantly evolving, growing, and changing. So
If not,
you will
if
need
you're not, you're
people
dead.
in your life, all of your life.
We actually met through Marilyn Fritz Hubbard, Dr. Marilyn Fritz Hubbard, many years ago, probably at least before I was married. So that had to be over 35 years ago, if not maybe 40 years ago. I'm
Right.
dating myself, but that was a while. And she is still a part of my network. She's my mentor. I consider you my mentor as well. Both of you guys were my mentors. So I'm sitting there at this table in Cleveland, and we're talking about putting together the success guide. And it was because at a period of time you were doing the success nets,
Right.
and you were doing those success nets. So tell us about the evolution of that, because they were so organic. Didn't know that that would really end up where you're ending up now. But tell us about the genesis of how that all started.
Well, SuccessNet was the first of, let's call it product or brand, when I started the company after I decided not to take the opportunity with the Ford Motor Company to be a Ford Lincoln Mercury dealer, one of the first in Cleveland. I was selected with 12 other brothers to go through their first minority dealer development program. And I decided not to do it because all it would have made me a millionaire. I wasn't feeling it as much as I felt the need to help our people grow and to teach them the power and importance of the relationships in our lives. So, SuccessNet was my first venture, my first event in doing that. And it was really in a bar, but large bars, in a very large bar in Cleveland, Ohio, seated about 500 people, had a little amphitheater in it because this bar also brought in entertainment. So I made a deal with the owner, who was a friend of mine, and I said, "Listen, I want to put on a networking event. I know that it doesn't exist, but I think there's a market for it. And if you will provide me the space, you can get the bar, and I'll get the door, because all I'm charging is $5, right?" So he said, "That's a no-brainer." The first speaker at the first SuccessNet event was the esteemed, none other than the greatest speaker of them all, Les Brown. Les Brown.
Yep.
He opened,
Yep.
right? And he opened as the first major speaker. I sort of opened as the warm up act, teaching strategies and tactics on how to effectively network, how to design a card, how to give a card, give it when asked. Don't run around a conference or a seminar passing out your business cards. So I gave out networking lessons. He was the attraction, really. He was a big time disc jockey in Columbus, Ohio, not far from Cleveland. and he wanted to go into the speaking business. He had spent some time in politics, and this was his next big move. And I hired him to be the first speaker at the Power Networking Conference. So that started
You know,
SuccessNet. That stayed around for about 5 years.
Mhm. That
We
was
did it every month.
something. You know, you did every month. Now that's the thing. But you know what? I've heard this story a lot that you did the Success Net, and I knew Les was the first speaker for that, but I did
Hmm.
not know that his foray was really into that. Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. You know, he went from a DJ to senator, da, da. And so
Hmm.
this is so you guys. I consider you and Les and even Dennis Kimbrough, all of you guys, kind of. I won't say
Yeah.
grew up together, but
Yeah.
really kind of were
Yeah.
the foray in terms of those type of speakers, motivational
Writing
speakers.
and speaking, writing and speaking, writing and
Mhm.
speaking. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
Dennis
yes,
is a very close friend. Of course, Les is almost a lifelong friend. And we
yes.
still,
And all
communicate.
of
We
you all
still
have been
talk.
on the covers. Dennis
Yeah.
Kimbrough, Les Brown, George Fraser. I can't just put you guys up
Right.
on some kind of like thing together.
Right.
So this
That's right.
Speakers Magazine Hall of Fame. That's what you guys are. So now you're doing the Success Net, and then from the Success Net, you got all these business cards, and people are putting the business cards in there. And then how did the Success Guide go about? Because these things
Yeah.
are
So
huge.
that was the next brand. The first brand was SuccessNet, which
Yeah.
ultimately morphed into the Power Networking Conference. And because I had collected, it was required that if you came to the event, we would get an average of 500 people each month, and we would collect their cards. And then I told them that I would produce the card in such a way that they would be proud of it, and provide a directory. What I really wanted to do, because I was not happy with Black Pages at the time. Now, it was the only
Yeah.
thing we had. It was sort
Right.
of a Yellow Pages version
Yes.
of Black
Yeah.
businesses. And it just was not of the level and quality that I thought we should be represented by. So basically,
Hmm.
I wanted to put together a coffee table quality directory, right? With beautiful
Yes.
pictures, wonderful stories,
Hmm.
and there's a big directory. You'll see it in the back of the book. We sold
Hmm.
advertising, and we basically passed out the directories in the public and private and corporate sector free of charge, so that
Hmm.
corporations and government agencies and nonprofits could find the kind of people that they were looking for, because you
Yes.
had to be about Black excellence to make this directory. So that was the seed of the idea. Well, it became an enormous hit. We expanded it to 7 cities, um, and we printed 20 editions of Success Guide, and then of course the
The
internet came.
internet.
There you go.
Right.
Right.
It's like
Right.
we
So
got
passing out
internet.
directories is now all over the internet.
Yes,
That's
these are
right.
like
That's
at
right.
least 10 pounds. Well, not 10 pounds, but at least 5 pounds each, right?
Yeah. Oh
They're
yeah.
heavy.
Mm.
They're
Yeah.
at least five
They're,
pounds each.
they're,
So
they're
it's a
close to
lot easier
300,
to carry your phone.
300 pages.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So it's a
Yeah.
lot
I'm
easier to
sorry.
carry your phone around than it is than these big directors, right?
That's
So
yeah, absolutely.
yes.
That's right.
Oh my
No
God.
question.
Oh my God. So now, and I flipped open the page to Tommy Dorch. I just got a memory of him and the things that he
Mhm.
did to the world. I mean, this nothing really replaces print. Even though we have Audible and all that, nothing replaces books, right? So that's why I still have these
That's right.
these things. That's why I still have magazines, things like this because they
Right.
still matter. But I remember from the power networking is in it involved into from the success net and then the the books, the power networking, it evolved. And so we have another morph, I guess you would say. Now we are success net, success guide, we got the internet. So now there is something else that evolves after this. And then that's the power networking. And how long was that run when we called it power networking?
Well, the Power Networking Conference was a morph, an up leveling of SuccessNet, because we
Mhm.
went from local, because SuccessNet was purely local, right, in
Yeah.
greater Cleveland, Ohio.
Mhm.
And we did a few guest things, we did one in Detroit, we did, but fundamentally, it was a Cleveland product. And and we had enormous traction. A lot of people loved it, and we decided to go national. That we were going to start producing Success Net, but we were not going to call it Success Net. We were going to call it Power Networking because there's power in networking, right?
Yeah.
So we were going to call it, and we're going to make it a conference. And we
Mhm.
decided, obviously, to this where I lived was in Cleveland, and we negotiated with Ford Motor Company, who wanted to be a sponsor of it. We negotiated with the Cleveland Convention Center. We spent 2 years planning it, dotting every I, crossing every T, asking every powerful Black speaker in America at that time. Now, this was 2002, so it was 22 years ago. That was
Mhm.
the first Power Networking Conference. This is now coming up, the 23rd Power Networking Conference. So every major Black speaker in America, you name it, they were there. Um, and much to our surprise, a lot of people don't know this, but we have video on it. In fact, I posted it up on my social media. The first Power Networking Conference had 8,000 people
Yes.
in the Cleveland Convention Center. The second one,
The
9,000. The
largest.
third one was 10,000 people. Now, remember that this is like 20 years ago. So we were killing them 20 years ago. Now, I know there's a lot of big, Black conferences other than the Urban League and the NAACP, the Standards, or the Congressional Black Caucus, but uh, but no
This
one
was
was
the
pulling
business
those kind of,
conference.
yeah, no one's pulling those kind of numbers. So,
Mhm.
but let me just be candid. I decided after the third one in Cleveland that 10,000 people was too many people. It ended up being a big social event. I just really couldn't, train people and coach people and mentor people up close and personal with 10,000 people. So I decided that I just didn't want to do that anymore. I really wanted something more boutique, something smaller, and I made a strategic decision to turn it into a hotel conference as opposed to a conference center or a
Mhm.
convention center conference. And
Mhm.
Tommy Dortch, who's a very close, the late great Tommy Dortch, who's a
Yeah.
close friend of
Yeah.
mine, came to all three of the first ones, and he said, "Listen, when you decide to move this, will you please move it to Atlanta?" So I said, "Yeah."
Mhm.
And after the third year, we decided to move it to Atlanta. We signed a 3-year agreement with several hotels in Atlanta. And we ended up staying in Atlanta because it was so freaking awesome for 6 years. And we were averaging about 1,000 to 1,300 people, which was manageable. We could have small workshops. There would be 50,
Mhm.
60 people in the workshop. It was really up close and personal. We had coaching. We were the first conference to introduce the concept of coaching to a conference. So you came to the Power Networking Conference. There were 15 sisters and brothers who were
Power
qualified
coach.
coaches, and we started offering free coaching. Yeah, and so now it's a popular thing, but we broke the ice on that.
Wow, that was the power coaching and that part right there. And really,
That's right.
people that
That's
came were entrepreneurs, and it really became where if you were an entrepreneur, this is where you would go. You would get business. You would meet people. You would network. It was you taught them more than just really uh, you taught them more than just giving out a business card. And one of
that's
the
right.
things I want you to go over, George, is these the symbols down here. I don't know if you can see that. I see Jimmy Davis joined us in the green room.
Hmm.
These
Yeah, yeah,
symbols down here
yeah.
at the bottom. If you could talk about that a little bit. They're the symbols. It's
Yeah,
this
a wonderful sister in Atlanta designed those symbols for me. And there's a symbol for connection, there's a symbol for people, there's a symbol for giving and loving
Mhm.
and serving, which is the purpose of life. That is the purpose of life, is to love, to give, to serve, and to add value to
Mhm.
every minute of every day. So those symbols, although they look a bit cryptic, but inside of the directory, it tells you what those symbols mean. The
Yes.
colors are all purposeful, right? The
Mhm.
symbols are purposeful, and so we love symbols. I mean, Nike has made $1 billion from a simple symbol
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
their shoes. So yeah, so we needed, we wanted symbols, and that was part of the evolution of all things FraserNet. And then we developed a mantra for the company, FraserNet, right? Connect, grow, and prosper. That's our
Yes,
mantra.
that's
That
it.
is our
That's
vision statement, quite frankly. That's what we want Black people to do. And we've been
mhm.
talking about that now for about 20 years. What is the key? The key for us is to connect with each other, develop unity and collaboration. And through unity and collaboration, all right, we become extraordinarily powerful people because we're not outnumbered. There's 1.3 billion Black people in this world, right? There are, 16% of the 8 billion global population, 16% of white people, 84% of melanated people, dominated by African American, well, Black people, not throughout the diaspora, Asians and Chinese and Chinese, yeah, Asians, and there's another group, oh, Indians, East Indians.
Mhm.
So not outnumbered, we're just out organized. And so
Mhm.
connecting helps us to organize properly, to leverage our collective resources, and to help us to understand that we need a lot of us doing a little instead of a few of us doing a lot. That's really the key.
Yeah,
And we need to come together. Unity and collaboration. Without numbers, game over. Game over.
that
Once
is
we begin,
that.
yeah, game over.
Yeah, that is the thing that your conference is, roughly 1,000 and could be anywhere from 1,000 down to, the COVID time. We had
Yeah.
the period and you moved
Oh, 500,
to
400, 500. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then from Atlanta, I think we moved to at that point you did your stint in Houston. It was after like
I
the
did it in Dallas.
Dallas, that's right.
Dallas
And then
first, then Prince George's County, right? Then Prince
yes.
George's County in the Washington D.C. area. Then we went to Houston, and
Mhm.
now we're in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah, that's where
Yes,
we're going to
yes. So
be.
this year,
Charlotte, the Queen
July,
City.
yes,
Right.
July 10th through the
This,
13th in Charlotte. And
mhm.
you've had so many people that have been a part of it. Stacey NC Grand has always been your celebrity MC, and you've had is it Alex, I believe, from Cleveland that has helped with the organizing of that.
Oh, Alex
Uh,
Boone, Alexandria Johnson Boone, yes,
yes,
who's been with us
Alex,
from day
yes.
one. Right.
She's
Yeah,
another
we had.
day one, right? Yeah, I
That's right.
love her. And
Yeah,
then of
we got
course
some.
we got the body language lady, right? So we
Oh yeah,
always have
Linda
Linda
Clemens.
Clemens
Yeah,
there. Uh,
yeah, we have some superstars. We got some superstars in Charlotte, July 10th through the 13th. We've got Rohan Marley, the son of Bob
Bob.
Marley, right?
Mhm.
We got Master P. We've got Dr. Boyce Watkins, and we got John Hope Bryant with us as well. So there's some superstars. This is a place that you go, to connect the dots, to leverage more effectively our collective resources, where you learn, earn, and ultimately return. This is the best training, the best subject matter expertise, and of course, for 2025. For 2025, next year in Charlotte, you will be on the menu of faculty, and we'll just figure out what in fact you want to preach and teach. But I've been thinking about you for a
Yeah.
number of years, and so we're gonna close that loop for 2025. But we've got a hell of a lineup. Go to Power Networking EX, or you can go to powernetworking.com. But if you want to get directly there, go Power Networking EX. E is in experience, and X as in expo.
So it's now Power Networking has
PowerNetworkingX.com,
is evolved.
right? And you can find
So
out
it's
all the people. Yeah, now it's the Power Networking. Yeah, we've given it, I should say, a new coat of paint, right? So we moved it from Power Networking Conference to a Power Networking Experience. And the reason I
yes.
wanted to do that, it's a subtle, it's a nuance. I think it's sort of a classy reason. Instead of this conference, you are a spectator. With an experience, you'll be a participant because
Oh, I
we're
love
very, very active, right? So from a
that. Mhm.
spectator, one of thousands sitting in a seat listening to people talk to you or talk at you, all right, to really being an active participant, meeting the people, greeting the people, getting hands-on, up close and personal coaching and training and preparing you do the right things. The three most important things: we have to connect, we must grow, we must be committed to lifelong learning, constant never-ending improvement, and personal growth and development. So through connection, through growing, we prosper, right? Connect, grow, and prosper.
And
This is how we prosper.
the thing, this is the thing. You had a viral video. I think if you put in connect the dots, you show up with your web that you had. You know what I'm talking about? That is
Right.
like you call it your signature talk. I don't know that, but it was talking about connecting the
Yeah.
dots and the web. Yes.
Yeah.
So talk a
Yeah.
little bit about
It's a
that, where
very
that came
interesting
from.
story on how that There's a very interesting
Yeah,
story of even how that happened. But yeah, that's had over 5 million views. And
yes, and
I
that was
did that
before
talk.
people started calling it viral, right? That was
That's
way
right.
before
That's right.
viral.
That's right. That's right. And it happened by chance. I mean, it was just something I happened. I don't know if we have time for the story, but I happened to be in Atlanta giving this speech, and I was staying at the Ritz Carlton. I was going to my room. I run into in the lobby. Um, uh, 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 Jesus, why did I forget that? Tavis Smiley, right?
Mhm.
Tavis Smiley. So we greeted each other. He said, "Hey man, what you doing in there?" I said, I just gave a speech." And I asked him why was he there. He says, "Well, I'm doing the state of Black America in Atlanta." And I said, "Oh wow." He said, "Everybody's in the room over there." Well, you didn't know everybody. Cornell West and all these folks are in the room. Al Sharpton, they were going to be panelists, and Minister Farrakhan. And he said, "Come on in the room and just say hello to everybody." So I did. And then I stayed about 10 minutes, and then Tavis asked me to come in. He wanted to speak to me privately. So we went over in the corner. He said, "Listen, Mark Morial was supposed to be on the panel tomorrow. He can't make it. Can you fill in for Mark Morial?" And I said, "No, I can't fill in for, I can't fill in for Mark Morial. I can do me, but I can't do Mark." And he said, "No, you'll be okay." So I said, "Okay." So I stayed and ended up on this. We were in a very, very large, very, very big mega church in Atlanta, and so there were 8 of us on that stage. I mean, the who's who, and
Mhm.
they gave everybody 5 minutes to opening statement. And the first person was Minister Farrakhan, and the second person was me. So
Oh my
Minister
God.
Farrakhan always takes more than 5 minutes, and he's always
Yeah.
outstanding, and he got a standing ovation. So I'm sitting there
Yeah.
sweating bullets. Okay, I got to follow Minister Farrakhan. You don't ever want to follow Minister Farrakhan, right? So I have to man up. So I got to the edge of my seat, and I started talking about why it's important to connect the dots, right? And I did it all
Mm.
improv, right? I always
Nice.
carry my little prop piece with me with the dots separated and then connected on the other side of the little panel that I show. I always carry that with me. And so that little talk, which was 6.5 minutes, got a standing ovation. It is the only clip that Tathis made from the state of Black America, and this was a decade or so ago, and he
Yes.
posted it up on YouTube, and it's still there.
And it's 5 million views, and it's on other people's things as well. So it's not just there, but people and then have taken, and so it's probably more
That's right.
than that. Is
Mhm.
that where the genesis of Click
Yeah,
came from?
that's right. Oh yeah,
That's where
yes,
that came, and this one is
yes,
still
yes.
available
10 Truths to Building
on.
Extraordinary Relationships. Yes, that
Yes,
was a
yes, and
huge
this one is
bestseller,
on.
along with Success Runs in Our Race. And if you
Yes.
really want a quick read and an interesting read on how to build effective relationships, long-term relationships that produce for both you and the person that you're connecting with, that's the book to read. It You can still
Hmm.
purchase it on Amazon,
I
as you
love
can
it.
still purchase Success Runs in Our Race on Amazon.
Hmm. Hmm. And one of the things too, you had a for the praise for Clip, you had Stedman Graham, Keith White at that time, and then Terry Williams as well. She wrote the Personal Touch, which was was my mentor. Terry's my
Right.
mentor. She's PR
Right.
PR whiz and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, she's
she
great.
talks about the
Yeah.
personal touch, really talking about how really it talks about mutual give and take. And that's really like the main thing. That's really is mutual give and take. about
That's
click.
right.
And then there's someone that's like, oh, we
Yeah.
clicked, the meaning like, do we click together? So at Power Networking Conference, they can go to that this year. In the show notes will be the website and the link so they can actually click something there. Click
That's right.
and actually go there and get the ticket July 10th through the 13th. So I want to make sure that people know they could do that. There's one other thing. It talks about the Hall of Fame, and we didn't go over that. So where did that right there? This is the African American Business Hall of Fame.
Uh-huh. Yes. Oh my goodness. That idea is 22 years old. I birthed that back in 1999 after visiting. There are 110 Black History museums in America. I have visited about 80 of them. And
Wow.
what occurred to me, this is back in 1999, that while our fight for freedom, civil rights, voting rights, public access, is clearly covered in all these incredible museums, including the National Museum on the Mall, what was obviously missing to me as a business person, as an entrepreneur, is that our history, the illustrious history of Black business development in America, and the
Yes.
contribution that our business and our creativity and our inventions have made to the upliftment of this great country that we live in. That is not covered anywhere comprehensively. You might see something about George
Yeah,
Washington Carver, you'll see something
Madam
about
CJ, Madam
Washington,
CJ
Madam
Walker.
C.J. Walker. Yeah, there are a handful, but the story is much deeper and broader and
Yes.
better than that. So I thought about that. I said, maybe there ought to be a museum dedicated to our Black business legacy. And let's call it the Black Business Legacy Hall of Fame Museum and Metaverse, right? Now, that was not the first iteration of the idea. It was just the African American Business Hall of Fame. But I ran into some challenges back in the early 2000s when trying to go out and raise, because I'd done all the work and all the research, and it was beginning to try to raise money. I called Earl Graves, and Earl said, "Man, this is an incredible idea. Count me in, but don't do it now." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, there's a museum that's going to be built on the mall. It's the African American Museum of History and Culture. This will be sort of our national museum, and everybody is being rounded up to raise money from." All the Black businesses, on the corporate sector, the independent sector, the organizations. So you won't be able to compete with that. So
Mhm,
put it in cold storage, wait
mhm.
for the right time, and bring it back out. And so I waited 20 years. And
Yes.
in 2022, I brought it back out, refurbished it, redesigned it, did new research, and now we are shopping it with several cities that are very, very interested in putting it in their city. It's a very competitive process, and we're very, very excited about it.
Good, good. So that is the thing that people can also look forward to seeing that birth as well. What
Sure.
I love about
Right.
what you do, George, most is that you stay relevant. You're always doing the research. You are always on the cutting edge of things. You evolve. You do reiterations of things, just like the Power Networking Conference is now Power. It's called Power.
Oh,
What's the
yeah,
name?
it's called the Power Networking Experience and Expo. It
Expo.
used to be
That
just the Power Networking Conference. It's now an experience.
experience and
You go
Expo.
from spectator to participant.
I love that. I love that. And so the thing that we got a few minutes left here, what are the main things that you would want if someone were looking to get started, especially if they're in their own business or if they want to get started in this speaking business? What are some of the things that you would suggest, or even obviously we're going to suggest that they get the books, but what are some of the other things that you would suggest as we close?
Yeah, and starting a business today, I mean, certainly with artificial intelligence and social media, I mean, you can almost start a business and get a regular income, weekly and daily income. You can almost start a business for nothing with social media. I mean, it's that easy and that broad. Not only that, but building a business on social media that is reliant on social media makes your business global. And the tools out there are almost next to nothing to run that business. What you need is just an idea. And there are now social media just doing business using social media has created I'm trying to remember the number, but I think at least 500 millionaires just
Wow.
doing their business on social media. Right now,
Mhm.
a very small percentage of those are African Americans. So we need to fix that. We need to change that. We're going to talk about that at the Power Networking Conference, how to leverage and utilize technology to start and to build a business. All right.
Mhm.
So what you need is a good idea,
Okay.
and you need to test it. Very, very inexpensive to test now because you can do it on social media.
Smoothie.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, a good idea. You need the discipline and the persistence
Ooh.
to chart the course and stay that course and go through the hills and valleys and understand how to navigate obstacles. Because my favorite quote outside of the Bible is a quote by Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was one of the five great Caesars. And it was Marcus Aurelius who said in 600 BC, he's the founder of the Stoic philosophy, of which I study. He said that the impediment to action advances the action. What stands in your way becomes the way. In other words, the obstacle is the way. Where there is no obstacle, there is no way. What is the first thing God does when He gives you an assignment that He feels that you are prepared for? He puts an obstacle in your way. And your job is to find a way over, around, through, and under it, stumble, fall, make mistakes, learn the lessons, and apply it to your next assignment. And so, what does God do
That's
when you
it.
get your next assignment? He puts an obstacle in your way. So, obstacles do not block the path, Pam. Obstacles are the path. I eat obstacles for breakfast, right? So, obstacles are part of it, right? And so, you have to have the discipline, you have to have the courage if you're going to start and build and grow a business. You have to have the persistence to stick with it. Chart a good and righteous course, then stay that course. Stick with it. Doesn't mean there won't be constant, never ending improvement driven by personal growth and development and lifelong learning. Yes, you're constantly evolving. The Power Networking Experience does not now look like anything the Power Networking Conference was for 20 years. It's a reinvention of it. And this one, every product has a lifespan. I learned that working 30 years, I'm sorry, 13 years with
At
Procter and
Procter.
Gamble. Right?
Hmm.
Every brand, every product has a lifespan, and you have to give it a new
That's
coat of
right.
paint. You have to reframe it, reposition it. So this is all part of the critical thinking that you have to have uh, to build a business. So let me see that a different way. Um, um, a river uh, cuts through rock not because of its power, but because of its persistence, right?
Mm.
It's persistence. Right? It keeps rubbing on that rock year after year, billions of gallons of water, and it will cut right through. It's persistence and discipline.
And
If it doesn't
resilience.
work, yeah, resilience, absolutely, absolutely, and
So,
risk. You got to be able to manage risk. We are risk
risk.
adverse. We play our cards very close to the chest. You have to get out of
Mhm.
that, right? No, no pain, no gain, no resistance, no strength, no rain, no rainbow. It all takes some element of of adversity and diversity. But you
And
have to persist, and it takes courage. You know, I remember look at you and look at Mark, and now we have corporate beginnings, but we pivoted away from those
hmm,
companies, and
it
we
was a reason.
started our own business years ago. Right. This is extremely important. In fact, that's where I
The
met your
thing,
husband.
yes, was
Mhm.
at corporate
Yeah.
at Ford, at Uniworld and
Right.
Ford. They were working
That's
together
right.
and that kind of thing. The thing that people see is they see the glory. They don't know the story. They know that you started in LaGuardia Airport. You know, you were swinging a
Mopping
mop and all.
floors.
Yes, yes, and you grew up in foster care and a lot of that thing. But you are now going to be debuting a book. Hopefully, it'll be done by PNC by Power Networking Conference in July. But the name of the book, can you give us the title of the book of your new
Yeah.
autobiography?
Yeah. It's called the New Flex. The New Flex, the art of being unapologetically black unapologetically creative and unapologetically you. So instead of, the word in slang, flex means to brag, and to wear high fashion and to look good, you're flexing. No, we're going to change that to mean that you're doing something meaningful and purposeful. You're doing something that advances the culture and advances your family and advances you. That's the new flex. What are those things? Well, one of those things will be how Black people must now think differently about marriage, because marriage is on the rocks in our culture. Only 31% of Black people today are married. When I was growing up, 85% of us were married, right? 29% of Black women will never get married, right? 64% of brothers right now are free and available. So we're going to have to fix black male and female relationships, and we're going to have to sort of reinvent what marriage must look like for us in the 21st century, because God has designed family for, to include a mother and a father. A mother and a father. We need those two. So that has to be fixed. So that's one of the things I'm going to address and flex. How do we fix the institution of marriage? Because if we don't, we are in an existential crisis. There is no culture in the history of humankind, Pam, that has maximized their full human potential without family being at the center of that culture, right?
Mhm.
If we look at the numbers, look at the trajectory, look at all the statistics that has eroded marriage in the Black community, if we don't do something to change that, within the next generation, marriage will be in the low teens. This is not good, and we must
Mhm.
fix that. So that'll be
That is
one of the things that we'll talk about with it, the new flex. How can we mend the family, mend the relationships between Black males and females? There's all kinds of, it's complicated. And maybe adding to the concept of marriage something called a situationship. A situationship, that you're with a partner, you're with a loved one
situations.
because of the right situation, right? And so there's a relationship, and then there may be a situationship.
Situations.
Your situation and her situation are congruent, and can be leveraged, and you come together. Now, whether you sign a piece of paper on that, whether you put your hand on a Bible, that is to be determined. But we need Black men and Black women together raising Black children. The men become the
Mhm.
model for the daughter, if you have a daughter, of what a man should be like. He also becomes the model for the son of what a man should be like. Right? A woman, of course, is a model to the son for what a woman should be like. And this is the kind of woman he will ultimately hope to marry. Right? And so
Mhm.
it goes on and on. You need to. And
That's part of legacy. That is part of legacy.
yeah,
You
yeah.
and your
So
wife
that's flex,
been married
the new flex.
40 years. 40, how many years?
51
You and your
years.
wife?
Yes.
51. Okay. All right. I thought it
51
was
years.
40. So 51 years. And then
Yes.
how many children and grandchildren?
We have two sons who
Mhm.
married and then had children. Okay.
Okay.
And
Oh,
went to
that's a
college.
good order.
All right. That's the right order. That's the right order, right?
Right.
And we have three granddaughters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And
Yeah.
that's
So I
part of
speak on this
legacy.
subject out of personal experience.
Yes, yes. And that's the thing I wanted
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
to really just bring out. It's not just theory. It's not like you've had two or three wives. It's one wife
No,
in over 50 years. And
no,
that
one wife.
yes,
Right.
that's the
Number
thing.
one, let me tell you, do we have time? The number one thing, what's the number one thing a man wants from a woman? Peace
Respect and
and
respect.
respect,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Respect, right?
Hmm.
Peace and respect. Um,
Hmm.
and now this is going to sound strange, but non-sexual intimacy doesn't mean he doesn't want sex. I'm saying
Right. But just
non-sexual
intimacy. Yeah,
intimacy,
just intimacy.
to hold, to cuddle, to touch, right?
Hmm.
To feel, right? Intimacy, non-sexual
Hmm.
intimacy. So those would be three things. And what does a woman want from a man? I mean, you put your hand on the Bible and you say the first two things anyway: to provide and
Protect.
protect. That's the first two things that a woman wants and a man must provide. Whether she works or not, that's wonderful. That's icing on the cake, right? But it ain't the cake. The cake, the responsibility for provision and protection is the man's responsibility, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's what a woman wants from a man, right?
And
And
why are relationships really something that you're focusing on in terms of a marriage? Because you find that when we first started, you says behind every strong woman is a strong man, or behind every strong man is a strong woman. That 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 part is that like the secret sauce that gets lost a lot in business conversations.
yes, absolutely. I
Mhm.
mean, you hit the nail on the head. You answered your own question. That is the secret sauce,
Yeah,
right?
it
And
really is.
we learned that. I mean, I'm OG, right? I just turned 79, so I'll be 80 soon. And that's,
You're going
our parents stayed together. Why
silver
did they
fox.
do that? What was the secret sauce? And now in the modern black woman has been taught for the last generation or two to never depend on a black man and make sure that you're self-sufficient.
Mhm.
Self-sufficient. Focus on your education and your career. That's the primary focus. That's what they were taught, and that's what they did. In fact, we have now black women are now outperforming black men. I mean, we have more black women in medical school, engineering school, dental school, in the high professions, law school, than we have black men. So, because
Mhm.
women are very disciplined and they focused on making sure that they could take care of themselves in case they were not able to find the right man that they wanted.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
So, we're going to have to sort of rethink that whole orientation because
Yeah.
we must have two. We must have two.
Yes.
I would not be where I am today if it was not my wife of 51 years and what she did that I couldn't do, right? Because of the travel and all the responsibility, the responsibility of nurturing the children and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And she also worked. She chose to work. She didn't have to work, but she chose to work, right? And then managing a business herself. What was that business she was managing? The household. You don't think a household is a serious business? Oh, that's a serious business, especially if you got a house, right? And you
Yeah.
have children. No, there's lots to that. So she went to work and she came home and managed the business of the household while I was globetrotting, speaking around the world and building businesses. You
How
got to have
many
that kind of
times
partner.
did you how many times did you speak on the average, say, a year? How many times were you
Oh,
speaking?
heyday, 150 to 180 times a year. I have 10 and a
Okay.
half million frequent flyer miles, right? Right.
Wow.
That's from 40, 50 years of traveling. So I was
Mhm.
all over the place, and she did not want to go. I mean, she didn't, she
Yeah.
would rather
Yeah.
stay, she'd rather do work and rather take care of the family. And you need that, right? So
Mhm.
without that kind of support, it would have been extraordinarily stressful. And I
That's a team.
probably would
That
not
is
have been
that
able
is
to do
team.
it because I'm a responsible person. But he said, "No, you go do you, I'll do me. I'll make sure that the family's taken care of, and then you make sure that we live in a manner in which we will all become accustomed to." And that's what I did.
Mhm. Mhm. And that is really like the key. That is
Yeah.
the foundation. You're kind of like getting back to the basics, so to speak. And so when people see success, it's like, okay, let's get it in the right sequence. Let's get it in the right order so that we can have the right success. So I just thank you. And
That's right.
Charlotte just doesn't know what is gonna hit in July. I'll tell you, they don't know what's gonna hit them. So it's gonna be
That's
all
right.
of the people there, the conferences, the workshops, the experience, and the expo. So, Dr.
Amen.
George Fraser, thank you so much for joining Speakers Magazine. Thank you for being my day one too, as well. Thank you
I
so much.
appreciate you, Ron. Anything I can do, you supported me by asking me to be on the cover. The least I could do is to be there for whatever you need me, whenever you need me, and that's how
Always
we
have
have
been.
been. Yeah, always, absolutely.
Always have been.
Thank
Even
you.
way back in the day when we
All right.
did career conferences and things like that back in the day. And I think the book had just come out then at
All right.
that point. So, yeah. So,
Yeah.
always, always thank you so much for joining us today. And God bless you. And I will talk with you soon.
Thank
Take care.
you.
All right. Bye bye. So, PowerNetworkingConference.com, you can go there, go to the experience, go to the expo. Make sure that you go up to Dr. George Fraser. Don't just give him your business card or give him a virtual card, but actually talk with him and see how you all can network together because he is about business, about doing that. So thank you for joining us, and I'll talk with you soon.